We're back. It's another week of Legends of Runeterra on Aegis Esports. I'm Domcast. I'm joined by TDS. We're here for another amazing week, but more than that, it's a brand new patch, one of the biggest ever. We have our first two regionless champions, Bard and Jin. How are you feeling about those, TDS?
First of all, glad to have you back. It's been a while. I can't remember the last time we got together, but it's been long. So I'm glad that we're back together. Now, going into the patch, because I really think that it is going to be an interesting one going before playoffs. The fact that we get two champions that I feel can slot essentially with almost anything as long as there's the correct idea. Feels really interesting, and I feel like we'll bring much more variety than we previously had. And it was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been a while, TDS. I was here for the start of the season and then took some time off, but I'm finally back. I'm
Yeah,
glad to be here again and with you, TDS, just like we started way back
good
when.
old
But no, this
days.
is going to be an insane week. Playoffs on the line, brand new cars, potential huge meta shift. But with that, like Jin and Bard, they like you mentioned, they fit into already established archetypes. You just have to like make sure that the deck works, basically. But that could go for anything.
Essentially.
And we're gonna
Yeah.
highlight two decks here later in a minute. But before we do that, we can just talk about the patch overall. You know, we have Jin, Bard, Annie, Alawi, pretty interesting champions. Um, the Jin, you know, has a lot of skill and fast and slow spell based interactions, and then Bard just makes huge units. If you want to talk about Icy Gaming's deck here, TDS.
Yeah, we're going into one deck that already implemented the new champion Bard with the Bard set that this is kind of the kind of deck that you try to buff up your units with the I just keep in mind the MIPS, but it's the chimes from the Bard
Hmm.
instead. So they just keep buffing up those units at random, and you just get those potential huge attacks with the units that just keep stacking with those chimes. And I feel like it's an interesting way of playing. Reminds me to a certain degree to when we had the Ken and Ari, because it was kind of doing the stack units to stack damage to stack as much as possible with them in the mid game, and it became quite powerful.
Hmm.
I think that this deck has a similar potential, even though I think that this goes a little bit towards much more having attacks based on
Hmm.
just a huge range of damage on the units, much more so than just stacking units. But it can be quite an interesting deck to see, and I think that we may get quite a few good chances to see it, because even though it can be strong, I think it has a few counters as well.
Yeah, it definitely when I saw this list originally, I was reminded of, you know, Poppy Zed when that initially came out, you know,
True.
Poppy buffing up these otherwise really weak units to go for these huge attacks. And Bard, such a strong card, I think just in general. Like, getting those free buffs for like otherwise like I'll just say useless cards like Navori Blade Scout, after the turn it has elusive, it's basically worthless. But if the turn it has elusive, it's a 5/4 card. That's a really good attack, and then also it's a 5/4 card after it loses elusive. It's just the value, the potential value from Bard is insane. So that's a really cool deck to see. I think we're gonna see a couple of different types of Bard decks coming out in
Yeah.
the next couple of weeks here with the Aegis Esports Legends of Runeterra League. But I mean, we can say that for all the cards with these many new abilities and interactions. There's gonna be brand new decks all over the place. Like
Yeah,
this next
like
one that we're gonna talk about, the Annie Ziggs. And you know, I'll give you one hint what this does. TDS, what does Annie do?
burn.
She burns. She
Yeah.
burns things. This is gonna be an otherwise standard burn deck, I think. But the only difference is you're adding Annie as opposed to one of the other Noxus champions. And you know, you have Ziggs who's doing a lot of burn with his attack. Annie, a lot of the same style of ability. You know, it's attacking and then it's doing damage to its blocker. Adding the stun once she levels up is a really big um buff, because before then, if something has more than 2 health, the Annie is basically just dead.
Yeah,
But
like
once it gets that stun,
that
it's
burn is just
very
so.
easy attack.
Yeah, like the burn and the potential from the Annie just feels like like you're pointing out, feels pretty standard, but at the same time, it kind of works out quite nicely to deny some of the
Mhm.
just throwaway cards that you have at some point to not be that useful when blocking, because the passive to just attack the
Mhm.
Nexus instead can be actually quite useful in a lot of instances, and I feel like we're going to see that usability of the Annie quite a few times.
Mhm. And, you know, looking at the deck list, there's Annie, the Raven and Bloom Conservatorium, Captive Greyback, and Disintegrate. That's 4 cards. 4 cards out of all of the new cards that came out this patch, this expansion, added into an otherwise old deck. And I mean, I say old, Ziggs is not obviously an old card, but this is a very tried and tested burn deck. And, you know,
Yeah.
as far as these cards go, Captive Greyback I think is a sleeper card. Well, maybe not sleeper if it performs really well, but I think it has a lot of potential. The Raven Bloom Conservatory, giving you that Tybok just makes your burn better. All of your units have +1 damage. All your spells and skills have +1 damage. And then disintegrate I think is actually a very very good spell. The next time a
Yeah.
unit takes damage at all, it dies for 2 mana is insane. You can have something like a huge blocker, a huge unit, a huge follower, pop the disintegrate, pop a pokey stick, pop a disintegrate, the any block or the any attack skill, that unit's gone. It doesn't matter if it has 12 health and tough. It doesn't matter that you summoned a 10-15 Trendamere with Feel the Rush, because that unit's just gone now.
Yeah, I honestly think like the disintegrate point that you bring up, I think it's quite important because I feel like this card can just become a powerful card in almost any deck. The value that it brings and the
Mhm.
cost that it has, like it can be quite useful in a lot of instances, completely just separate from this deck. Like it can be brought into a lot of other decks that can
Mhm.
kind of want to do something similar. And I feel like disintegrate will be seen much more, even if it's not on this deck.
And the fast spell nature of it makes it so like variable. Like excuse me. With it being 2 costs like you mentioned and it being a fast spell,
Yeah.
if you pokey stick and then disintegrate, that card's dead. It's a 4 cost vengeance. A 4 cost vengeance in a deck that doesn't necessarily have Shadow Isles. Like
Yeah, like the value overall is just so high in most instances that it's hard not to see it being useful in a lot of instances. And I'm really
mhm,
excited to see what else do we end up seeing with this card. I think that this is going to be one of the first tastes that we get, especially with the Annie. But I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing it much more in the coming decks, in the coming weeks with a much more newer variation of decks. Also, to bring it before we forget, thank you to Runeterra ER for the decks. We are able to see it thanks to them, so thank you so much.
mhm. Yeah, big shout outs there, because otherwise we'd just be talking about these cards. We wouldn't be able to actually see
Yeah,
what's being brought in. But I mean, looking at the decks between the first matchup, which will be Omega Gaming or Omega Esports versus Icy Gaming Team B, it's gonna be an interesting night. We have, like we saw, an Annie Ziggs deck and a uh Bard Zed deck. So both interesting takes on otherwise pre-existing decks.
yeah.
I'm interested to see what else is out there, because there's a lot of opportunity with these new cards. Like I was talking with my friend before we came onto the show tonight. I was thinking about, Viego is a really good deck. Viego has his own power. He
Yeah.
has his very clear win condition. Illaoi seems like she does a lot of the same things. She's summoning a really strong unit. If that unit dies, so what? You get another one the next turn. Like I was thinking, is that what? There's so many possibilities with this new expansion. Like what is something you would like to see TDS in the next
So
weeks here?
So I watched Jin a little bit because I think that Jin has good potential with the Sun. I think that it's going to be an interesting card, seeing much more what can be mixed with the Jin, much more so that what can the Jin bring with him. And I feel like the Jin has quite a bit of potential. But now that you bring the Illaoi up and thinking about it a little bit more after watching it, I feel like the tentacle potential that you get, like just spawning the tentacles and continuing with that, like you can get such a huge barrage of attacks thanks to it. And I feel like Illaoi may become one of the more staple decks like the Viego, like you're pointing out. Just because I feel like it's versatile enough, and the key that the I think it's yeah the keystone that it brings with it, the fact that you can keep spawning those with a lot of good instances with the Illaoi deck just makes it means that it's quite recyclable, and I feel like that is going to bring a lot of value to decks with Illaoi.
It's gonna be a very very interesting thing to see how the meta evolves as we look at hopefully the first matchup of tonight. And yeah, it's gonna be Prodigy versus Taptricity,
Ooh.
Ziggs Annie, and Alawi Garen. So we're not gonna be able to see the Bard Zed deck just yet. But this is an interesting thing so far. It looks like we have a Viego Alawi, well, not Viego deck, but like it looks like we have two burn decks and then Viego's Elise, and then we have Alawi Garen. So it looks like we're going for a lot of big attacks with tentacles and rally, and then the 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 thralls and the faded. So an interesting matchup.
Yep, I'm quite interested seeing what do each of the players prioritize here. I think that I am much willing to say that we're going to see the newer decks potentially just because I think both players are willing to test it out in this instance. I feel like it's something that you would want to show to see a bit. But at the same time, I feel like the Viego is going to get run away. I feel like it's such a strong deck that I don't expect to see it that much. And I think the Faded as well is going to be taken away.
Hmm. No, I'm right there with you, TDS. I think between the decks that Prodigy has brought, they've brought two burn decks, and then the Viego Elise, and then Teptricity has brought two relatively slow decks in the the Thralls and the Alawi Garen, which I assume is a slow deck since Garen is a 5 cost and takes 2 turns to level up potentially.
Yeah.
The Fade is the only deck that can really stand up to the burn, which I think if you have two burn decks, that's just what you take away.
Yeah. Like it has to be one of the two has to be there for you, and you
Mhm.
potentially don't want to go against a deck that will be able to fight you really consistently. So yeah, like the Viego was pretty expected, and I don't think we're going to see the Faded. Now, in the case that we do see the Faded, do you think that the Thralls or the guy Ilaoi Garen gets banned away? Because I feel like Thralls is it takes a little bit more time, so I feel like you can kind of see the angle for
Oh
the
wow.
ooh,
I
it's the
was I was
Thralls.
about to say, like, if you're running two burn decks, the Thrall is the last thing like on your mind.
Yeah, I was thinking
I feel like,
because it takes time, so you kind of have
yeah.
your time to be able to pull it off with the burns.
Yeah, you have so much time to be able to use your spells, abilities, your low cost attackers before the Thrall can really like reach its win condition. And sure, once the Thrall like reaches that point, it's a very very hard deck to beat. But like you have a long time before that happens,
Like,
as
yeah,
far
like
as a burn deck.
it feels kind of interesting seeing maybe the fear that like maybe the thought process here is that with the other two, even when they reach their power points, I still have a chance. Maybe with the thralls is that
Hmm.
if the thralls reach their power point, I do not have a chance. I feel like that may be
Yeah.
the idea behind it, and I can kind of see it.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I feel like we if you against trolls, if you let them reach that point, you're essentially going to lose almost all the time. So
Hmm.
you still you would still be you have your time frame, and it's a little bit better than some of the other decks maybe.
Exactly. And that will be what we're seeing is going to be a two burn decks versus Faded and Alawi Garen. I'm actually really interested in this Alawi Garen deck. I'm pulling it up right now to see what it or what the list has. But do you know what group this is, TDS?
This is
I
group four.
forgot.
So
Group
this
four.
is like talking about the standings now that that you bring it up. IC Gaming B needs like they are in the fight for the playoffs. If they win, I think they secure it, or not 100% sure because there's a couple of results that need to be happen as well from what I've seen. But it's important that they win the match. So this
Mhm.
is going to be really important for IC Gaming B. I think if I'm not wrong, Omega Gaming doesn't have the same chances based on what I'm seeing.
So every game counts for IC
Yeah,
Gaming.
yeah.
Omega is looking to deny basically
Yeah, they're
someone's
playing spoiler
someone's
pretty much.
opportunity. Yeah. But looking at this Garen Alawi deck, it looks interesting. You got the Broadwing, you got a bunch of tentacle spawns. So, looking at the first game though, it's gonna be the burn, the Caitlyn Ezreal burn to be specific, versus the Pantheon Yumi faded deck. Now, the faded Pantheon Yumi deck is definitely an interesting angle, but I feel like I like Taric better. There's the Taric rally interaction is just so wild that like the potential to win just through that is insane. But Yumi definitely still a stronger version of that deck probably. I have my
I think that the consistency is what made it
hmm
made them take the change towards Yumi, just because it feels like with Yumi it ended up being much more consistent, and I can see the point there. Like Yumi, like it or not, Yumi makes it so that you don't have to worry about a lot of instances. I think that it takes from your strength a bit, but it takes from your weakness as well, and I think that it's a change you're willing to pay. Yeah, an exchange you're willing to pay.
wow, and unfortunate single combat coming out here
Yeah.
from Tetricity to take out that Caitlyn, and we're already into turn 4, so definitely not the best pulls from Prodigy. Most likely, you got two Noxian Guillotines, and that's about it. Like two Noxian Guillotines, the Captain Farron, and uh, the Pharaoh's financier. So interesting pull here with the Marauder, but Tetricity's basically set up. They've got everything they need basically to turn this game into a win.
Yeah, like I think Toptricity in quite a good spot already. I think Prodigy has been like he has quite I think quite a good bit, but he's lacking that starting point for what he has in hand. And I feel like as soon as he gets it, it's going to turn around, I think. But right now it's not looking the best spot. Like having on the field is quite good, but he's going to take a little bit of damage here.
Interesting that they're not interested in keeping the wounded white flame alive. Maybe they're already expecting the Noxian guillotine, but since they were able to look at the deck lists, which is, you know, a smart choice, it's just curious that they didn't try to save it anyways.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
it's just trying to. It feels like it's just trying to try and keep the resources when it matters the most, which we have seen previously as well. It's just how long will they keep it for themselves?
And you know, going straight for this Marauder is a pretty good attack here. You know, they got the 5 damage off. They're gonna do 5 damage onto the white flame, and now it's potentially Noxian guillotine time, which definitely an interesting card there. Just kill a unit that is already damaged, which very interesting. Excuse me. But it's going to be interesting. Wow, I've said interesting a lot. Interesting when Tetricity decides to play the Pantheon. You know, usually they do wait, obviously, for the Pantheon to be leveled up before they play it, for the potential to get a spell shield. But they're in no rush, I guess, if you're Tetricity, because Prodigy has not played the cards that they need to play.
Yeah, like the Electricity has a lot of room to play how he wants. Meanwhile, Prodigy, he has a room as well, but it's not like he has pulled off what he needs to pull off at the start. It's been quite a bit of just trying to form a defense while he gets what he wants. Meanwhile, Electricity is in no rush, so he's just consistently building himself up slowly. And I feel like that's why Electricity is not pulling anything off, anything more.
Yeah, and here's the attack from the Overwhelmed White Flame. Immediate Noxian Guillotine.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the Wish doesn't even save.
Ooh.
Yep. Well, I was gonna say the Wish doesn't save the White Flame, but the Hush most definitely does. And as a match update for you, TDS, what was it?
Yeah, we had the. I need to quickly look because I forgot the names. Sorry for that. I'm not good, but yeah, we had Tank 1-0 over Moth on one of the other matchups. So already putting themselves in a quite a good spot from the side of IC Gaming B, and hopefully they can keep that up if they want to reach playoffs.
Wait, Moth. That means Moth is down. Moth.
Wait,
is
no,
on
yeah, sorry, Omega. So this is bad for them. This is bad for IC Gaming B. I take it. Moth
bad.
is the one that Moth lost, so they need to take it around.
Yeah, so
Turn
this
around.
just putting even more pressure on Taptricity. But if you're Taptricity, you're feeling pretty good considering, you know, Prodigy still hasn't played the burn cards that they need to play to burn Tetricity's Nexus.
The thing is that are we reaching the point? Well, Yumi is not yet out there, but are we reaching the point where maybe it's a little too late for Prodigy? Like he still has time, I think, but we're close to reaching a really hard point in him.
I think with the Noxian Guillotines in hand and the Farron, there is the possibility for Prodigy to turn this around. That being said, it's going to take Prodigy being able to find a way to handle this Pantheon. Because you have 2 Noxian Guillotines, you could very easily use the Noxian Guillotine on the White Flame and then use it on the Pantheon after the Pantheon is injured. But then after that, you have to be able to play the Farron and then play both Guillotines, play all your Mystic shots, and then even then, you're still missing damage. The Farron has to get a fairly big attack off, and if either the White Flame or the Pantheon survive, it's going to be very difficult to do that.
Yeah, and now it's forcing the situation, like you were pointing out previously, to try and make it so that the attack can be lessened. But
Mm-hmm.
will it be enough? It's the kind of thing here. I think that Tricity has
Mm-hmm.
potential to stop this. Will he go for it? Is the
Yeah.
thing, and yeah, he's opting for it.
So I don't know why Tetricity did that, unless it was a misclick. But the Hush can save the White Flame, and the White Flame will deny the Farron attacks. But they're
He
not going
didn't
to
opt
save
into
the
it.
White Flame.
Yeah, he didn't opt into it. It seems.
Now, why did they wish on the Pantheon?
Quite interesting
No.
decision.
And anyways, Prodigy should play the Farron here. Yeah, here comes the Farron. They're gonna. This is actually a really good angle for Prodigy, with the Farron and the Glory Seeker and the lack of units in Tetricity's hand. It's gonna mean that Farron gets a free attack, which would put um which should put it fairly low. I'm trying to think what's in Tetricity's hand that he can use that they can use to reduce the damage they're going to take from Farron, and it's going to be just playing another unit. But that's not going to save you too much. You
Yeah,
have to hush the Farron and then block with Yuumi, but then you're losing Yuumi still, so that saves you from one attack, and the Farron is still on the board, and you have no units for another turn if you're Tetricity. So this is not looking good. Prodigy
yeah, like
turning it around.
that was a complete turnaround with killing the Pantheon and the Wyvern. Like, you if one of those units was kept alive, then everything could have been managed by Taptricity. But the fact that those two units died like that just became harder on Taptricity.
Okay, so the top deck Mystic is very, very good for Tetricity, taking away the overwhelm. Unfortunately, you have no
Ooh,
more units, and the Farron is
yeah,
still going to do 8 damage next turn. So yeah, the FF from Tetricity, not wanting to really worry about trying to get the win. Just go to the next one, clear your mental,
yeah,
not get too tilted. So excellent play by Prodigy. Actually, that's the real thing to take away from this game is with a bad hand, without the early game cards that you really want, against a deck that scales fairly well. Prodigy played all of his cards, all of their cards really, really well. They played the guillotines when they needed to play the guillotines. They had the fair, and they were able to curve that into a win, and still handle all the fades that were coming out. So definitely props to
yep,
Prodigy for taking that win. But Tetricity's got to come back. This is an important game. This is
yeah.
like you mentioned, everything's on the line.
Yeah, and I think okay, we have an update as well from Moth and Tank because it seems Moth came back 1-1 on their side. So Deptricity, if he can pull it off, they are one step closer to being able to at least try and reach playoffs. But yeah, like they need to turn it around. We have okay, we have the Ilaoi Garen on one side, and we will be having the 6 Annie on the other, which is great.
So this is going to be an interesting deck to see, just because it has Demacia, it has the really strong tentacles, but one of the things that I thought was the most frustrating to play against with the Alawi deck during my time practicing earlier today was the 5-cost spawn 3, and then your strongest tentacle strikes an opponent.
Yeah,
Such a strong card. Having that ability is just so crazy. And the fact that you can choose, it's not like strikes a random unit. Definitely not enjoyable if you're running cards that have 4 health maximum if you're with a Jin Annie deck, but so far looking at the hands, Tetricity's in a really good position. This is a great opportunity to take back the series because of the 2 Alawi's in hand and the 2 I forget what they're called, but they grant the tentacles overwhelm. The Sea's voice.
oh yeah. But yeah, the stacking already seems quite good for Taptricity with the units at hand, and there's still a lot of potential for tentacles. Like that this is what I was mentioning with the tentacles. Like the potential that you get from the units that will continue generating those tentacles, like just feels so nice with the Ilaoi, and already having a some board presence can be quite good, especially when Ilaoi gets the level up, or the extra value from the tentacles.
Wow. Opting to stun the Fleet Feather. It makes sense since there are 2 challenger units on the board, but still stunning the Alawi feels like you would save more damage. Because now
I'm
the
trying to,
Alawi can
yeah.
attack. Now the Alawi can attack, and then the Alawi is going to get at least three damage off and only lose two health tops. And you know that does put her at risk of a ravenous flock, but that's still a lot of damage is coming through. Like 8 damage in one turn, and then Tetricity still has another Alawi. That's a fine trade to take.
Yeah, I was thinking the Ravenous Flock yet to take here.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was just to try and use the Ravenous Flock to
Mm-hmm.
throw away the Ilaoi, but like the
That's
damage,
gambling that there's not another one.
yeah, like the damage is done, and it's taking the chance, like you're pointing out, that there's no other one. So
And wow, okay, discarding the Garen, very good for Prodigy, but it still doesn't matter since there's another Alawi.
like it's just stacking up for what Electricity wants to do so far.
Mm-hmm. And now we have the Tentacle Slam, so it's gonna be, like I mentioned, the Spawn 2, Spawn 3, and Strike a Unit card, if they opt to go for it, but looks like we will just be moving on here. This is a dangerous place to be for Prodigy. This is potentially a not lethal, but potentially a
It
lot
can
of
be
damage.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, very dangerous. Especially since there's no stuns in Prodigy's hand anymore. They have the House Spider, and that's about it as far as getting a lot of blockers on the board. But even then, with the Sea's Voice and Alawi, that's 2 Overwhelm cards, and that's 6 health total you have to block with.
But there's like the good thing that I can see here is that at least there's enough blockers to at least take some of the damage off. Because
Yeah,
that means that you're still leaving for the next turn where you can try and play around your burn. But it is becoming dangerous. Like actually dangerous.
yeah, and now we're gonna
Um,
see at least a unit get taken away, 3 more damage added on to the tentacle. There's not looking good because that's more damage for Tetricity and less health to block with for Prodigy. And you know,
that overwhelm
we
is going to
mentioned
be
that they
so
have more
important.
turns to play around to try and turn this around, but Alawi's just going to keep wiping the board. The tentacles, all of this damage you have to block, which means you're losing out on the potential burn that you could use to win the game, and that means you're still also at like 4 health before the next turn that Tetricity can attack. So you got to figure something
Yeah,
out.
like
It's
that is
not
true.
looking
Like the
good.
damage is there and it's going to hurt you and it's going to condition you. But
And
it's not losing yet, which I think it's important.
it still
It's
dies.
one of the most important
Why
things.
wouldn't why wouldn't you use it on the one thing that's living? They used it on Prodigy. I guess, yeah, the Ravenous Flock saves you from one tentacle, but that's still
Well,
damage coming through.
Do you feel her presence? Do you
it
hear?
does mean that the Ilaoi damage is less. It's not going to come in this one. So I can see why the idea ended up being that one, just to reduce the risk in this turn and try and take it on the next turns.
And I wonder why Teptricity opted not to attack with the Alawi there. They've seen 2 Ravenous Flocks comes out. Like, what are the odds that the third one's in hand, if there even is a third one in this list? Like, that's just, you're just losing out on, like, potentially the 3 damage from the Tentacle plus the 2 damage from the Alawi Overwhelm coming through, and then I guess you're eating this 7 damage from Tybok, which, you know, Tybok is a huge unit.
Yeah.
But
It's certainly one of the strongest fighters. And taking away from the tentacle previously, it also allows for less potential just blocking and damage that you will be able to do. So I think overall, Prodigy opted into a nice play, and it does force us on to Teptricity. Although now, sharp side. Okay.
Defend yourself.
Sharp Sight. Oh, I guess you wouldn't have enough damage to clear Tybok. Okay. I wasn't sure on the math there for a second, but
But
still,
quite a per trade.
yeah, no, a great trade. But what they have to watch out for now is the Arachnoid host, which hasn't come out yet, interestingly enough. And I think we'll just see both. I think we'll see the second Tentacle Smash. Yeah, that's probably gonna come out onto the. Oh, or not.
Huh.
Oh yeah,
Not sure
because if you use it on the traveler, they would just clear each other. So
Yeah.
smart move there. But yeah, now we see the Alawi level up, which means Alawi's gonna be a huge unit. Alawi's gonna be at least 5'10" here, or 6'11" maybe. I can't remember how Alawi works. Too new.
It's math.
Yeah, and now the Arachnoid host comes out. So yeah, that's good work saving the stun, but we're still in a very bad spot here for Prodigy, because while Prodigy has some things to block with, they don't have the burn that they need. They've only been able to stall Tetricity, and Tetricity is now cardless. He has no cards in his hand, but Prodigy still needs to find their burn cards.
But like the positive side is that it's still a lot of just hand power that you do have, and Annie comes out here, so calling for that one of those to help you out as Prodigy, which is quite nice, honestly.
Yeah, the problem is that Annie can't really attack here. Annie cannot stun a unit. So if Alawi opts to block the Annie, that is the Annie dead.
But it's a lot of threading. It's a lot of thread that you do have to worry about, and I think that that's kind of what Prodigy is playing around here. Just threatening the potential just kill onto Electricity so that he has to blow some things, and that means that some of the damage either is taken or will be dealt with.
And Tetricity, I feel like Tetricity is playing overly safe here. I think they're worried that a Disintegrate is in hand from Prodigy, but they're also worried of another Ravenous Flock potentially. But
Totally makes sense.
But now you're just gonna eat this damage, but then also lose Alawi anyway because of the 2 poison shots or toxic darts. Except for the sharp sight. The sharp sight does save her. But again, you're cardless, and you're gambling that the 2 cards that exist in Prodigy's hands will kill the Alawi immediately.
Yeah, actually banking quite a lot on Tetricity, making the most out of the next turn. So like that is how he's playing this. Before the attack goes through, just a quick update. Tank did, from what it seems, Tank did lose to Moth, so Moth does take the series first point going to IC Gaming B, which is really, really important for them.
So now Tetricity's in a poor position. Okay, I was gonna say he can't use a Tentacle Smash because of the Pokey Stick will just instantly kill the Alawi. But now that they've gone for the attack and the Alawi has regained some of her health, it's out of Pokey Stick range, but there is potential here from between the shark and the captive shark and the Arachnoid host to get a good chunk of damage onto Tetricity next turn.
Does the captain does it deal enough that, although you can pull off the trade here with the tentacle, no?
Well, the captive has a skill similar to Annie's where it damages the blocker first, and then it has Overwhelm. So yeah, the Tentacle Smash here gonna come through. It's going to kill the captive Greyback either way, which is unfortunate, but at least they're clearing off one of the strong tentacles, and they're just resetting that.
So a nice use of the Poke Stick to at least take the away from the tentacle. So all in all, keeping the survivability and another one. Okay.
Okay, that's good. The captive Greyback. Okay, now here is something difficult. So the captive Greyback has Overwhelm and a skill that damages the Nexus or the blocker, or the Nexus if the blocker is gone.
Ooh.
So this is going to be interesting. So they have Wallop. This could be a big attack from Prodigy. This could be very, very important. No! Save the Wallop! What? No, why? I guess Prodigy can still win, but why wouldn't you wallop the blocker of the Greyback so that you get the skill damage and the Overwhelm from the Greyback?
Yeah, but it's still the damage, so it still pulls off the victory for Prodigy, and that takes away from Tetricity.
Yeah.
Really nicely played by Prodigy at the end.
Yeah, no,
like,
it was
managing perfectly.
Yeah, very, very well played from Prodigy. a little nitpicky by my part at the very end, but
Yeah,
you know,
I feel like that's the kind of win you do to just get the style points. I think.
yeah. If there was another card, if there was another card
True.
or Tetricity's hand that saved a unit from dying to the skill, or if there was another blocker that Tetricity could play, then saving the wallop for the Greyback blocker I think would have been smart. But
Yeah.
Prodigy obviously noting that there's no cards in Tetricity's hand, making the perfect play there as well. So definitely well played by Prodigy though. Both games making the most out of his deck in a very very rough spot in both games. Really, the first game they didn't draw the best cards that they needed, but still turned it around at the very end with the guillotine plays and the fair and then the second game, you know, finally figuring out how to take care of the constantly spawning tentacles, and then they get the win with the Greyback at the very end.
Yeah, I feel like the way that he managed the most of the resources that it was at hand, I think was really, really crucial. Especially because he run trip uh, Taptricity from without cards in the hand until a certain point, and then he just had more resources to play with. And I feel like that is something that ended up just making him much more powerful, even with the enemy having certain cards in on the board that could have much more impact. So I feel like really nice playing that Prodigy ended up showing and making the series be 1-1 because there's one victory for IC Gaming B and there's one victory for Omega Gaming. And I think there's one between Sniper and General. They are 1-1 from what I've seen. So I think we're going to join the last game soon if they're still playing, I think. Would
It
like
looks
to
like they're just
confirm.
playing. They just updated 1-1 at
Okay.
8:25.
Okay,
And
we will be joining them in a sec from one of the teams. Yeah.
oh, Bard, we're doing it. We're doing it. It's Bard. And
Yeah.
Zoe Fey deck, I suppose. Before we get too deep into this, I love the quality of life, the visibility change for Elusive, because at some point, Elusive is just something that blends in with everything else going on the card. So I like that it shows the icon for Elusive. But into the game, big attack from from General here, with the buffed up Zed with the clone. Do you eat it? Do you not eat it?
Do you need to throw away this soy at this point? I think it's it's a level up soy, so I feel like you kind of already
I feel
did
like
your job,
I
which
feel
is
like
it.
you could have blocked the Esmus with Zoe and then
Yeah.
blocked a different thing with the the Bandle Commando or the Yordle Commando, but I guess they want to keep the Yordle Commando to attack with since the Dewdrop is out. I'm not really sure. But the Fae coming out is going to be very, very good.
Okay, so it's
Especially since they can do the tasty Fae folk and get some health back.
Looks like I'm
but
ready.
there is quite a good attack that seems to be coming from snipers potentially, so I can kind of see why he would take the full brunt of the attack of the previous attack from General, and you're going to get a little bit of life back as well potentially.
No, no, I definitely like the Fae or the glowing lantern into the tasty Fae folk, especially after taking such a huge hit. The only problem with that hit is the fact that Zed leveled up from it, and now
Yeah.
the clone will also be a quick attack. But in the grand scheme of things, an ephemeral unit without quick attack, an ephemeral unit with quick attack is the same thing since the unit's gone, but it's also just gonna kill your unit.
True, you do get the value there,
Resting
so
face.
it does work quite nicely.
Walking is strange.
Wow, just a lot of elusives here from General, which is what we kind of talked about in that you're buffing up these low cost elusive units with chimes.
Yeah, like making them more
for-
powerful is just overall great. Although not yet at this point, but you still like it's so early that you do get the value from the losers anyway.
And losing the Zoe is definitely an interesting decision here so early. Not sure if they're worried about the Zoe just being removed anyways, or if they're trying to take out these elusives before they're too strong. But definitely interesting there.
The thing is, with the Zoe, I feel like if you were going to get rid of her, why not like do it in the previous turn before taking damage. It's what I think overall.
The only thing I can think of is that they're denying elusive attackers that can be buffed up. And now we're into, you're going to lose. I don't think you can afford to lose the Faithfolk. You need to keep the Faithfolk for another attack. And you don't necessarily want to lose the Glowing Lantern. But wow, just eating the 12 damage.
Yeah.
That is interesting decision.
So is it going to be a trade of I can deal more damage than you can deal to me, in a sense? Or
I guess they're trying to say that the Faithfolk will sustain them long enough to win?
it's just one more round of potential. Like, if General doesn't die, one more round of potential good damage can be quite detrimental.
So I think you play the Conch or the Conchologist if you're a Snipe Cross. Yeah. If your opponent has more... What?
Let us take a
Oh,
peek
okay.
at life beneath
Um,
the waves.
Pokey Stick, good decision. Now, I think the angle here is to give your Faithfolk elusive.
Just keep the elusive stacking.
Yeah, just... Well, no, you go for the elusive so that you can get 5 damage onto the enemy Nexus while also healing your Nexus.
Yeah. Yeah, no, getting that extra health that you will get, it's just better overall.
Okay.
Ooh.
I guess not.
Well, it's
What do
only
I
more
know?
damage overall.
Everything's better with company.
What do I know about Fae attached cards? My Paper Darius deck did not do me right last patch, so... Moving on, it's the attack turn for Snake Cross. I think you just open here, or you go for the Conchologist play. That's fine too. Just
Like, more cards is always, well, not always, but more cards is good. Like, especially if you can just try and threaten those on the side of General. I feel like you can get a lot of value.
now I'm curious what Snake Cross is looking for with these Conchologists. I have to assume they're looking for a wallop, something to stun the Zed from attacking.
But there was a stun in this one, no?
I don't think so. I don't think any of those cards stunned.
Okay.
My friend and I are
Maybe I just misread
collectors.
things. Taking away on the damage here. I also like the play of just pulling the Pokesticks. I think that the Pokey taking another one wouldn't be bad in the previous draw. But I think that is still getting the most out of the Pokey was a really nice way of Snipe Cross to just take away from some of the build from General and also just add to his hands even more.
Now?
Yeah, and I like this attack from Snipe Cross a lot. Clearing the elusive with the Pokey Stick and then attacking with your Faithfolk and your 2 elusives should get a nice chunk of damage here. There's no way for General to block this without using the recall. The Will of Ionia could remove the 5/4 Faithfolk, and it won't really matter because they'll just put the Faithfolk back on the board between the current Glowing Lantern, playing Glowing Lantern again, and then attaching with the elusive. So they don't lose that much. It would save General the damage, and that's probably the most important thing for Snipe Cross, or for Generals to save them from the save themselves from the damage. Snipe Cross, though, has to figure out a way to heal in between the Zed attacks, because the Zed is going to lead off here. Obviously, it has 6 damage, but then what?
Do you go for just
How
an
do you
all-out attack here? Like, is it bad to just opt into an all-out attack here and try and just outblow your opponent?
Well, the problem is that even if you all out attack as General, Snipe Cross still has an extra unit. So Snipe Cross is going to be able to save something, and if you don't have lethal, Snipe Cross is... If you don't have lethal before the Faithful can block, then you're not going to win that round. So they have to figure out a way to, remove the lifesteal from Snipe Cross's board, and without recalling the Faithful, I don't think there's a method. And if you recall the Faithful, they'll just play the Faithful again immediately after, and they'll have reset the health bar, which will mean it can block one of these Navori Brigands for free.
Becoming kind of a hard pull for General, because I think that if this attack doesn't get something massive, like I can see the next turn being quite detrimental for
Mhm.
General at the same
So
time.
the Conchologists are free chump blocks. They have to come out here to block the bar or the Zeds, excuse me. Now, what do you do with the Fey Folk? Do you give the Fey Folk the Pell Cascade to kill the Bard? I think you do. I think that's the move. You give the Fey Folk Pal Cascade to kill the Bard and
You can
force
see
out the
that.
Will of Ionia. Because then that saves the Fey Folk too and the damage, and then you get to play the Fey Folk again with the same.
Thing is, I feel like with the Bard, you kind of already did what you wanted to, so it can be kind of thrown away. Like
Oh,
you're kind of sad throwing away the unit, but at the same time you kind of got already the chimes, which is what you really value quite a bit.
well, part of what we were talking about with Hirsch before the show that having Bard on the board is a huge part of the buff process. You know, the chimes buff cards in hand, and then the chimes buff cards on the board as well, since Bard is on board. And yeah, they've gone for the Pal Cascade onto the tasty Fey Folks.
Yeah, actually, I mean, just getting an overall nice boon of damage of health back into a Snipecross.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I understand the point with the Bard, just having it on the board. But I feel like at this point you can throw it away because you kind of already got the level up and got the extra chimes, and then if you can get another one, then you can do the whole process of actually just stacking with the Bard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a difficult problem here that General has run into, is that they're out of momentum. They have
Yeah,
Navori, Brigand, and Will of Ionia in hand. So like, what did they do to push this into a win? Since Snipecross is just going to constantly be summoning all of these units. Like they're constantly going to be like summoning a bunch of Fays for basically free.
he saved the
And
Bard.
then hmm?
So yeah,
He's
General
yeah, they,
just saved the Bard, like
mhm.
recalling the unit from Snipers, which I am not against. Like it's still trying to keep the Bard alive, like you were pointing out, to keep the process from the Bard alive.
The moon rises.
I think because I think at this point for General, you are out of momentum. You have no cards in hand. The only
Yeah.
thing you can do is buff the units that are already on your board through the Bard double on the chimes, and then because it's the exact problem that I mentioned. Snipecross is just gonna keep summoning Fey units for free
Yeah.
constantly. They're gonna be zero cost for the rest of the game, as long as he has Fey units in hand. Which, right now, it doesn't really seem like there's a way for a General to clear those. Like the boons coming in clutch here, giving the Navori bringing 2-3. But you know there's a Severum,
Light.
so that's gonna be a lifesteal elusive unit with 6/6, which is like, what do you do here? This is a potentially lethal attack from Snipecross.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Snipecross knows it because they have the Flame Spitter, and now they've added another Severum. Okay, yeah, this is lethal
Yeah, I think this is
guaranteed
it.
for Snipecross. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then General's gonna forfeit. So wow, yeah, it's General ran out of steam. That's the only thing is that they tapped out on cards, and Snipecross had their huge Fey board set up. So
Yeah,
it's
like it felt like with the set, it was bound to be enough power for General to just try and go for that
mhm.
good enough attack to push through and get the win. But I think Snipe, like you're pointing out, Snipers managed to just to stop the snowball, get a General into a spot where he couldn't just rampage, and then just force the win onto him. And really nice play by Snipecross overall in that game.
and I think the setup for the win really came right when we joined into the match,
Yeah,
where Snipecross was clearing out the elusives, making sure that General had no elusives on the board. Because eventually, what won him the game, what won Snipecross the game, was having elusive units that could attack without any elusives to
without
block them.
yeah, exactly.
And like that's really what came down to it. So definitely very, very smart by Snipecross to stay heads up and realize, like, okay, elusives is how we're both going to win, basically. I need to make sure that I have my elusives and they don't have theirs. So
Yep.
very, very well played.
the overall, I think that really showcasing the power of actually good played hands, and not really worrying about how the other was going to set up himself, but how he set up himself. And I feel like really nice play overall by Snackcross, and taking the overall win in the match, because that just makes it 2-1 for Omega. And it does mean, I'm not sure if it does mean that IC Gaming B is out, but I think that was a match that they could not lose. I think,
I
based
mean,
on standings.
I I'll take your word for it. Maybe
Not sure. Yeah.
maybe the miracle could happen and every other person that needed to lose loses and there's a tie, but yeah, it's not looking good for Icy. They definitely needed to win the game, like you mentioned, in Omega playing the spoiler perfectly. you know,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
yeah.
But
And
with that, I think we can go quickly to the break, or no, wait. Yeah, we can go quickly to the break, and then we will come back for the next matchup. Okay. Okay.
and
Perfect.
that,
I got
yep.
the yes, so we can.
Yeah, we're cutting the break. We'll see y'all in a couple of minutes. We're back. Round 2, Frozen Monks versus, hold on, I know this, versus Howdy Gamers. Sorry.
Yes.
I knew it was something, but no, we're back. I'm Domcast, joined again by TDS, the one and only. We just saw Omega Gaming take down Icy Gamers B in pretty much a simple fashion. The first match was definitely way not up in the air, but more interesting. And then the second match, still Omega showing that they know how to play the game. Like they made the right
Yeah.
choices at the right times.
Yeah, I feel for the second one, we obviously got towards the end, so it was a little bit hard to know the overall context. But I feel like Omega showcasing that they were in reality closer to playoffs. Like I think they were 5-7 before today or 5-6
Mhm.
before today. So it's not like they were super far away from reaching playoffs. They still showcase that they could be in the fight, and I feel like they certainly showed that today in this fight in this match.
Yep, but we're moving on. We're gonna cover Frozen Monks versus Howdy Gamers. A lot of ice theming with
Yeah.
the team names. Don't know
Well,
if that's planned, but no, it's gonna be an interesting matchup. You know, Frozen Monks, obviously, M-Tux, Aikado, uh, sorry, the Cameron Hanzo, really, you know, big names in the legend in the Aegis Esports League at least. You know,
yeah.
very strong competitors. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, especially with the decks that they're opting to bring. You know, we're going to cover two of them here, just like always. We're going to cover the Aphelios Bard from Cameron Hanzo on Frozen Monks. Just kidding, it's Zoe Bard, excuse me, from Dragon on Howdy Gamers. Excuse me. I don't know where I was going with that, but no, this is an
I think it's
interesting deck.
because of Hirsch. Hirsch kind of messed up with us, so it
Yeah,
happens.
it's always Hirsch's fault. You know, when in
Yeah,
doubt, Hirsch it out. But no, I actually like this deck a lot. You know, it has a lot of interesting, big, important cards. Even you know, the Blinded Mystic, very strong, permanently silencing a follower. With a lot of these big cards coming out that aren't even champions, Blinded Mystic definitely an interesting thing to take. The Mountain Goat, the Targon staple, obviously, but then the Bard. The Bard is obviously one of the biggest things. Curiously, though, there's no other chime cards in this deck besides Bard. So it's interesting. Not too sure what the plan is for this, at least, but the Winding Light, that is a new card that I was very much so hoping to see, just because it sounds so crazy. The Winding Light give other allies 2-1 and overwhelm this round. That's a very easy win condition for a card that you know, you have to activate Nightfall, but once you're at that 7 mana level, it's very easy to, you know, just maybe pop a Spell Thief, pop a Guiding Touch, whatever, and then pop the Winding Light. And if you have a
yeah.
board full of 1 cost, 2 cost, cheap units, very strong attack.
Yeah, and I actually think that that's kind of the idea why the bard is included without some of the chimes. The chimes I think would make sense, but I think the bard here comes with the fact that it's because it's on the later turns that you're going to play around this deck. So I can kind of understand why there's the bard, and you wait till that point with the level up bard to just get those chimes and even farther buff up the followers, which I think that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, definitely the angle there. It'll be I'm really actually looking forward to seeing this deck just because of how interesting it is. But before that, we're going to cover the other deck that we're seeing tonight, and it's going to be, what do you know, some Alawi. We just saw an
Yeah.
Alawi matchup come through. This one appears to be more of the same, but you take it away, TDS. You cover this one.
Yeah, it's the Laui Lux this time around a little bit. I think can be similar to that of the Laui Garen that we were seeing, although I think that this one is focused on having really strong attacks with certain buffing potential for some of the tentacles as well as the Laui. But also, I'm kind of interested in certain things because in this deck we will have the Demacia Tailstones, and I was talking about this with you guys previously because I thought that not necessarily the fact that this card is strong or anything like that, but I think that the Tailstones can be quite interesting as an overall concept because if you can use them in certain instances, it can buff up some of the champions that sometimes you don't expect. Like I feel Lux can be one of the beneficiary from the Tailstones, and some other champions may as well. And I'm really excited to see how does it fit into the deck and how can it provide for the tentacles of the Laui overall.
Yeah, I mean the Telstones is a very very interesting addition this patch. I really like the ad or not the ad with like the potential options that you can use the Telstones for. It really opens up a lot of opportunity basically because you're not tied into one spell. You know, you lose a mana to create this, but then you have more options basically. It's a three sisters for every region.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, the potential for buffing up the tentacles even more is huge. I actually like the Lux more than the Garen here, mainly because you don't really need a lot of attacks for Alawi to win. You
Yeah.
just need big attacks for Alawi to win. And then Lux is also there just to help out with, you know, a little bit of clear. Since you're already casting so many spells to buff these tentacles, Lux just adds some spell damage to your repertoire.
It's kind of trying to get two forms of attacks or two
Hmm.
front attacks with the based attacks and then just the normal based attacks, which I think overall are kind of interesting. I think that there's a good way to cover some of the weaknesses from each of the form of attacks. Obviously, it's not as strong as it could be with the more typical attacks combined together, but it's also a nice way to try and mix up with the new addition of the Lawi.
And I was about to mention like the Garen, sure the rallies are useful, but there's enough cards in Demacia that provide rally or a rally like effect. You
Yeah.
don't really need the Garen. You don't need to have like that setup. And one of them is Cataclysm. You see a Cataclysm here in Ikado's list for Alawi Lux, and I think it functions a lot the same as like an atrocity, like an over the top card as they call it. You know, the
Okay.
Cataclysm can come out. You know, after the Alawi's buffed herself up to a 16 power card, you attack and then you attack again with the Alawi with the Cataclysm, and there's really not a way to block that because the Cataclysm is a challenge card.
Yeah. But we do get the first matchup that we will be seeing here, which is from Howdy Gamers Dragon against Frozen Monks M-Tux. We had the highlight of the Zoe part, so we kind of already picked a little bit onto what Dragon had in hand, but Piego leads once again, and then the chase with the Heimerdinger. And on the side of M-Tux, we had the Misfortune TF, okay, this is something that I want to see. The Annie Jin, and then also the Draven by Sion. So I wanted to see the Annie Jin because I feel like their interactions together, especially with the stun, it's something that can work out quite nicely. And I feel like a lot of the Annies, like the way to play Annie with a lot of the cards that will have abilities, can actually work out quite well with the Jin as well.
Yeah, they were basically, I don't want to call it made for each other, but like the they
Yeah,
work
no.
super well. They're both their passives basically are this their level up conditions are the same thing. Annie's is just 6 instead of 12. And
Yeah, essentially.
um I've been playing Annie Jin basically since the patch came out is the deck that I wanted to try the most. And I've become a big fan of the play style just because Jin has a lot of what I liked out of the the Yasuo decks in the game came out, which is the stunning and then
This
damaging
stun.
with that.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm sure MTux will not make the mistakes, but order of operations is a very important thing with that deck.
Yeah.
hopefully,
That.
hopefully everyone that's trying to play any Jin out there, you pass the 6th grade, you remember your PEMDAS, what goes first or what comes second in your equations, because basically Jin has to be the first attacker on the board because
Yeah.
that's how you make sure that his ability to deal 2 damage to the stunned units or deal 4 damage to all stunned units and the Nexus comes last on the board. The only time that you would maybe want that to come out early is if you're like literally the 4 damage to the Nexus will win you the game. But other than that, you want him to attack first. That all the other skills happen before Jin's deal 2 damage to the stunned units. Because for like Annie specifically, if the Annie stun comes out after Jin does 2 damage to the blocked units, you're missing out on that damage.
Yeah, it's the overall value that you want to get, and that's probably that's the best way to get the most out of it. Now, immediately speaking about the decks, though, we do get the Jace and the Heimerdinger band away, and also the Draven by and Sion. And I really like the idea of planning away the Draven by Sion because it's one of the most aggressive decks. I think that it's currently like right now in this deck list, and I feel like against some of the decks that the Dragon has could be quite problematic. So I completely understand the idea, and I think that that could have been the best way to allow for your decks to just do what they really want to do, which is try and get towards that strong point later on in the game.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And I mean, you mentioned it. I can see where Howdy or from Howdy Gamers Dragon is coming from. Is that MTux is kind of pulling a dick move. They're running 3 burn decks. 3 burn decks. If you're running any slow deck, you're just gonna hate going up against MTux for the night.
That's the
but
prep.
but you mentioned the Draven Vi Scion is the most oppressive of the burn decks. And okay, maybe the Draven Scion Vi is not a burn deck. It's a discard combo deck. But still, it's very, very powerful against decks that take a certain amount of time to ramp up, like the Viego Elise, like the Zoe Bard.
Yeah, I think
But
I think it just overall makes sense.
you're still not left in the best position because you still have 2 burn decks to go against.
True. Like it's still harsh, but it's that kind of thing where you take the harshest of them all, and then you give yourself a better chance against some of the other two. Because even though the other two work in a similar vein, like there was some attacks towards the pirate potential, as well as the energy that is not completely, I think, devised. Just said like I think the idea is there, but I think that we're still missing that in depth that maybe the anti is that needs to get towards becoming a stronger deck. So I feel like this is going to be the better set of decks to go against compared to just immediately going against the harsher that I think it's Draven B Cyan.
Very, very interesting. As we get into the first match, it's going to be the Jin Annie Burn versus Howdy Dragons Elise Viego decks. So already off to a fairly good start. Actually, what we failed to mention in the Elise Viego deck is that it's not even a Viego deck. It's a Legion Deserter deck. It's the I gain all allied everywhere buffs, which means the Mistwraith buffs, the encroaching mists buff, the Viego buff. All of those are applied to the Legion Deserter, which means realistically, when the Legion Deserter comes out, it's going to be a huge Overwatch card. And then you also have, you know, things like the Harrowing, things like Fading Memories, which can just double the amount of Legion Deserters that you have on the board. And there we go. We see a Fading Memories there right now.
It's starting to ramping up, and I really like the idea of just having that huge buffing up for your allies and just in general that this deck that Dragon is coming with will provide. And I kind of want to do how does it go against the Jinani, because I think that Jinani, as far as I like the idea, does have some weak spots, especially with certain units that I think you can take advantage of.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned it. Jin Annie is full of weak units with skills or abilities, and you know we see one of the cards in MTUC's hands right now. The Stage Hand is a 4/4 2-cost card with stun. The downside is that it is ephemeral, so it's only there for the turn, and we're already seeing the first Legion Deserter come on the board. Will we see another another Fading Memories come out? We might actually see it, depending on where the stun goes. Yeah, it should go on the weak unit. But yeah, that's a huge attack.
It's actually quite something that if you try to defend to, like, it's not impossible, but it's going to be hard. And just
yeah,
takes it fully. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because you're not saving too much health by losing the Legion Deserter, and you can only block the Mistwraith with Jin, so you would save 2 health to lose a unit, whereas this you're losing the 2 health, sure, but then you have the Doom Beast, and now you have a huge, well, not huge, but a fairly large attack with, you know, the Stage Hand, the Legion Deserter, and the Jin on board. But now Dragon has the Viego, so there is a pretty beefy attacker there.
Yeah, like at least like Dragon was able to pull off another just strong enough defenders in case something else happened. With the health, previously I was thinking maybe it's a little bit too early to give away that huge chunk of health, but certainly with being able to come back a little bit in terms of just number of board and the health bar as well, I think that overall is not a bad thing for MTux. So all in all, I can kind of understand why the previous play happened.
Now, curiously, Dragon opted to drain one from the Jhin. I probably would have drained from my Stygian, because then I would have summoned the excuse me the Spiderling to get stunned, but then also summoned a mist or an encroaching mist. But maybe that's not the most worthwhile play. I'm just tripping. But relatively big attack from MTux here, and the Noxian Fervor in hand. That's basically going to confirm the win for MTux.
Yeah.
That's it. That's game.
Such a great setup from MTux that he got with the Jhin, with these huge units attacking and just enough to pull up the win so far. Like, I really like the play. The play that lead into this with the stuns and everything that happened.
Ooh. Now Dragon has the 3-cost Drain 3 and the Doom Beast, so this potentially could save him.
Jhin in hand.
This has to be the win. This has to be the win for Dragon, because next turn the Jhin will be damaging the Nexus with 4 damage. This has to be the win.
Oh.
This has to be the win.
I will give them a show.
Okay, it's the win. It's the win for.
My next.
It has to be, right? It's got to be the win for. Unless.
I think it is. Let's see, maths. Quick maths.
What's the stun do?
Yeah, no, but
I can't see the number on the side. I can't read it, but.
7. Yeah, it's just extra level up apart from that.
1 health. Wow, this is rough. This is looking difficult. The Jin's gonna do 4 damage to the Nexus. You have to find something to heal with if you're Dragon. This is not good.
Does he though?
Nope, it's over.
Yeah.
That's what a wow. I don't even know where to go. What a match. It was so back and forth in the matter of 3 rounds. It was Dragon's game, and then it was MTUX game, and then it was Dragon's game again. It's
Yeah, I legitimately thought MTux had the win at first, and then immediately Akato, no, sorry, I was reading chat, so that's why I distracted. But yeah, MTux was just felt like complete control, and then with one pull, Dragon almost able to turn it around. I think really nicely played by both sides to keep the game as close as it was, and then just take the win at the end from MTux side, which puts him 1-0.
And I couldn't really track the math, but the fading memories on the Doom Beast definitely looked like the correct play to get the health back. But between that and the Undergrowth, I believe it was called, would the fading memories not have been better used on the Legion Deserter? And I don't think the mana played out correctly though either, to be able to play the Legion Deserter and the Undergrowth to live in the first place. So definitely.
Where's my axe?
I have to believe in Dragon. I have to believe he made the correct choice. Because I can't remember the man. I can't even tell what's going on right now.
We are going into game 2 though with the Misfortune Twisted Fate against once again the Viego deck. So all in all, we're going to see a better maybe performance by Dragon trying to pull off this time around. I think there's quite good hands from both sides at the start.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a good place to be for both players. You know, Dragon having that early Chemovore and Soldier to get the Mythrace going, the Elise as well. Oh, 2 Chemovores. Wow, this is a very, very good hand for Dragon. The problem that Dragon's going to run into is that MTux has the MF and the Precious Pet and the Crack Shot. So definitely a good bit of pinging damage from MTux.
Nice attack from the side of MTux.
Yeah, you know, and Dragon, you know, having the Spiderlings to go for the 3 blocks definitely, or the encroaching mist, excuse me, but It'll be interesting to see how this plays out because Dragon definitely on the place to ramp up using the fading memories for another encroaching mist. Definitely a good play there. But was it? Nah, it was just a good play. I'll just say that. Oh, another encroaching mist. Sheesh.
Such a good attack already from Mtox.
Yeah, and that's wow. I mean, I always say, you know, the health bar is a resource to be used, but this is a lot of resources being used at once.
Yeah, like the thing is how you use it, right? It's not necessarily that you have to use it. It's use it if you can.
Now
There's a lot
here's
of
the
damage.
moment that I was going to mention. Would the fading memories not have been better used for another Camivore Soldier? So this turn you could summon another Camivore Soldier and an encroaching mist. But either way, we have the spiraling and the encroaching mist out. So we have 4 blockers. Well, 3 blockers for Dragon to block incoming damage from Mtux. So definitely not the best place, but still a good start for Dragon to get these blocks off. Now Mtux attacking with the MF, just trying to get lethal in this turn, or getting as much damage as possible to get to the decimate angle. But there's too many blockers on Dragon's side, I think, to have used the MF. Because now you're still at 13 damage without the MF.
I feel like the Mtox is in a spot where he kind of needs to force the attack because we're reaching such a dangerous spot for Dragon. Like with the units that can begin showing it, like look at that. It's 11-12 unit already with the stun coming through, saving that. But this is the problem, like we're reaching a point where Dragon will have those super big units and Mtox needs to force this kind of attacks.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a rough place to be, and I think, you know, we talked about it in the Omega versus Icy game. Like Mtux is just out of momentum. They've tapped out on cards. They have the Legion Rearguard, the Precious Pet, and the Zap Sprayfin, but this still only puts you at 11 health, and a Decimate and a Fervor is not equal to 11.
Yep. Like it's damage, but it's certainly not enough at all.
So the only way I can think that you come
Get
out of
another
this
Decimate?
one.
Or does he have another Decimate?
No. Mtux only has the Noxian Fervor right now, and whatever they just pulled,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's not enough. So
I was thinking if there was a chance there was another Decimate to pull off or something like that, but yeah, no.
yeah, that
So,
one. Oh, go TDS.
No, I
go.
was going to say just sadly didn't pan out the way that he wanted potentially, and that's why I feel like the attack was kind of forced into that situation because, like, if he doesn't pull off the attack there, the cards are just going to stack so heavily against him with heavy attackers on the side of Dragon, and we saw it.
Definitely a little bit more in Dragon's favor, you know, finding all the cards they really needed to get the huge Legion Deserter on the board, like we were mentioning. As we go into the final match, this has been a pretty quick series, really. We've only gone to like round 8, I think, in both of them. As we see the Zoe Bard versus the, I think this is just Pyro Dago, correct?
I think it's once again Pyro Aggro. Because this is the one that it's left, but yeah, wait, we're going into the last one with quite quickly, like you pointed out. I think this may be a little bit the longest because of the potential of the Zoe part, but just like the others, it may just end quite quickly. Also, Misfortune already for Mtox can be quite nice for them.
Yeah. Excuse me. As we see, you know, a lot of Targon cards coming out. The Serpent being invoked. It's gonna be really interesting. I understand like the Bard chimes. I'm just curious that they've opted to not include any other Bard like chime cards in the deck, which I feel like could only help this lineup. Like the Blinded Mystic, a really good card. Unless they're just trying to invoke cards, like they've only included invoke cards, the Blinded Mystic and the Ram or the Mountain.
Can kind of be the case, which I can kind of see that being the case, especially because, like you're pointing out, with just the part, like you don't have another chime, another way to pull off chimes. So Like, I can see that being one of the main ways to try at least to get the most out of this kind of deck.
Got something for 'em?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm very curious how this is gonna play out because you know they've summoned a lot of Dragon has summoned a lot of units. They haven't summoned a lot of dragons.
Yeah.
And MTux is doing the most with what they have. They're just summoning their units. They're attacking with MF on board to start that level up process. It's just who really comes out ahead on this? Wow, what a what a summon with the Navigator. The even more burn damage. Can't ask for much more.
It's setting up quite nicely, actually. I thought that it was going to take a little bit longer, but actually setting up quite nice.
Yeah, the Island Navigator pull from MTux is pretty huge, but Dragon also in a really good place here. You know, they have the dragon or the dragon. I keep saying that.
It's a new card. It's fine. We can make it so that it's
the
like
Mountain Goat and the Mystic, and they have Zoe in hand now, along with the Golden Sisters. I don't think the Golden Sisters counts towards the Zoe level up, but still, having Golden Sisters is a really good card that just because of the elusive and the lifesteal natures. As we see the second attack coming out from MTux, what did they decide to do here?
Do you force it here with the Misfortune, or do you want to keep it still?
I feel like if the MF's not leveled up, it's not worth. Because you could potentially force it and then make it rain, but like that's gambling that there's not like a Pal Cascade in Dragon's hand.
Which ideally is not necessary to do, right?
Like you don't lose anything by not risking the MF, because the MF will now level up the next attack, which will be in a turn now. And I don't think Dragon has a way to push lethal necessarily, unless they can somehow, gem into the overwhelm, the 2-1 overwhelm.
Yeah.
Which is a very real possibility, but I don't think. Okay. I don't think they need to worry too much about it. Because even the gem into the Nightfall card, you still have the opportunity to use the Nox or the Arachnoid Host, the opportunity to stun something. Yeah, and so this is a lot of damage actually to block.
Yeah.
But using it on the Golden Sister is the correct choice. Deny the heal and the damage. But this is still a lot of stuff to go through. This is still a lot of damage. You have to knock him. So you have to block the. There's a way out of this, and you have to block the winding light with the Arachnoid Host, and then no, you just do that, I guess, and you lose the MF. But I was gonna say you can fervor into the Solari Priestess, but then they all have overwhelm, so you're just deleting the blocker.
This kind of setting up for trying to get an MF as soon as possible after this, which is risky.
So yeah,
Okay,
the only upside is that MTux has a second MF in hand, but they are back to square one for that level up condition. They have to find 8 damage to Nexus. They have 2 from skills with MF and the Legion Saboteur. This is they're healing from this, so
yeah.
The fervor has to come out. Yeah, that's a good fervor play here. So 3, that leaves Dragon with 3, and then okay, the cosmic comes out.
Okay, so yeah.
So really, it's a null trade, and MTux is out of cards, so this is Dragon's game.
Yeah, like it had to be the last bet to try and pull it off as MTux there. And I think that MTux had a good setup, but not a strong enough setup, I think. It's the right way to put it.
It was how do I put this? I mean, the invoke was really good from
Yep.
Dragon. Dragon pulled all the cards that they needed. They had, they had the wide board. They got into the twin or the sisters. They got into the winding light at the very end for the huge attack. So, just every step to that point was great, and maintaining the board presence was good because you had the opportunity
Yeah.
to force these large attacks to deny the potential level up from MF, because the potential level up from MF would have been huge to deny like the continued build up on Dragon's side. So Dragon making sure that they were able to force the big attack and clear the MF that was 3 out of 4 to the level up, so that they could just basically deny everything else, and MTux just ran out of gas with his hand, like we've seen so many times before tonight.
Yeah, like it feels like
Mhm.
even though the idea is quite clear, like you need to execute quite effectively, because if not, you just give way too much window of opportunity for the enemy, for the opponent to try and pull up. And I think that that's what we're ending up seeing quite a few times with this kind of deck. So even though it's not necessarily about performance, it's just that the execution needs to be really good at certain points. And this time for MTOX was lacking just a little bit. On the other hand, I think Dragon performing quite well, coming back quite nicely from that first game, and I think that just getting the overall win of the series in a really nice manner.
Yeah, no, it's
No, okay.
yeah. Well, it was a very good matchup. I think like that was an exciting back and forth, not just in each game but in each, like in the series overall. As we
Yeah.
go into Aikado versus Chekhov, Aikado and Chekhov, they've remade their match, so that should still be a 0-0. Yes, we don't know the score actually. It potentially is a 0-0 match. They've remade.
Essentially just started, yeah.
Oh no, they're in match 2. We don't know who won match 1, but they did
Okay.
remake their second match. This is the remake from the second match. So the Howdy Gamers Dr. Chekhov versus Aikado. Aikado is running the faded Yumi deck, and Chekhov is running. Let me check. Let me check what Chekhov is running.
Just a quick check. It's
Ezreal Victor. Right? Yeah.
I think it's Extra Picture. Israel Picture. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Ezreal Victor. Which, wow, we're already in turn 10, which, I mean, I didn't really realize, but they got the Glorious Evolution off. So this just means every card that's played is going to buff up every unit on the board, which is basically the name of the game of what we've been seeing tonight, is that cards are buffing up units on board and hand to go for wide, strong boards. And then we have Pantheon, who has Regen, Overwhelm, Spell Shield, Tough, Fury, Scout, and Impact.
Who has everything that he wants and more.
Yeah, they're missing Quick Attack, but that's about it. The tough Spell Shield, Regen, Fury is really all you need for something like this.
Now, what does Victor need as well? Like everything, right? To be able to just stand on himself. Although now the level up for the Victor, which is quite nice.
Yeah, so between the stress defense and the level up Victor, leveling up Victor is actually huge, because between the Glorious Evolution and having Victor on board, all your cards now cost 2 less, which is a great thing to have, because now you have a 4-cost mini-morph, which everyone loves. The stress defense, specifically to clear the spell shield on the Pantheon, to make sure that you can mini-morph him for free whenever you want.
And you have enough resource to be able to pull it off. So all in all, like this just feels like it's the play that we're bound to see from Chekhov.
Yeah,
unless he thinks of something else.
Realistically, if you're Chekhov, you have Overwhelm. This could be your time to use all of your pranks, all your cards, just tap out, go for the big win. Oh, here it comes. Here comes the Cataclysm. Huge. Big use of mana, walking right into a mini-morph from Chekhov.
It's just part. It's all part of the plan.
Mm-hmm. And now, we also have I believe it's the Spear and Shield card. You just give Shield to Victor. Give him another health. He's safe, no matter what.
Yep, and just like that, your victory it's still there.
Well, not no matter what. They could single combat with the
True.
Bright Steel, but we're beyond that. We have two pranks. No, not pranks. The Octopus cards. Well, wow, opting to not go for an attack. And then another Pantheon.
Yeah, gets another Pantheon anyway, so...
Let's see, what does this one have? It looks like Fury again, Spell Shield again, Lifesteal and Challenger this time. And I believe still Scout.
Yeah, I think overall, yeah. So there's still a quite strong Pantheon that you have to be careful about 100% of.
And we have two more Octopuses, so this just means we're gonna go for an even wider board for Chekhov, and then we're gonna see the glory, the Hex Core upgrade, or we're gonna see another mini morph. How did
You
we?
can
How
kind
did we
of
have
pull off the
many?
mini morph, which I think it's fine once again. Opting into the other process instead.
Now we're gonna see another mini morph, or not? Why wouldn't we see the second mini morph? I guess it wouldn't save Victor anyways.
He's saving it to maybe use it later on the Pantheon so that he thinks that there's nothing that can stop this Pantheon anymore, maybe?
And then I think that's a 12-1 conchologist, so that's definitely something you don't see every day.
Yeah.
Ooh, Pal Cascade. Oh wait, no, that's prank. Wait, there's Chrono Break? Wait. What?
Just buff after buff after buff.
I'm lost what's going on here. I can't read, but I can't read what's going on. But single combat coming out, likely to clear the or to not clear the 14-1 or the 14-1 conchologist, which let's just be honest is scary. But no, I'm really lost on who wins this, just because there isn't like. Oh, I guess
They can trade. Yeah, the Pelkas keep just forcing it more. Like there's so much forcing.
You don't anymore?
I think the mini morph is for after this one. I think.
I suppose.
Yeah, I think for the next one you pull off the mini morph.
Well, no, I think this is what you're waiting for. You're waiting for the rally to come out. You're waiting for Ikato to tap out on mana. Now you're going to mini morph because it removes the barrier, and it removes the barrier, and then also makes it a 3/3. The downside is that you still don't get to have like a big attack from your 16-1, but you can just wait. No, what? Why didn't you mini morph before? Is the mini morph not a card that Chekhov has? Is this just a visual bug?
It's not the case because we already used it.
It has to have been a visual bug, which is very confusing.
Or are we? Yeah, are we missing something there? Because like
I don't know, but Ikato taking a handy win from Chekhov, which is always good to see.
yeah, that was a really nice way of playing from Ikato, just keeping up the extra resources in hand. Obviously, we don't know what happened at the end there with some of things, but all in all, using the resources nicely and just getting the win really well with the Pantheon. Like, especially with the stacking of the Pantheon, with the power of the Pantheon, just taking away from the victor, and it just denied completely from the victor.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a well played match. I believe that the mini morph was a visual bug, but we are going to go into the next game between Ikato and Chekhov, and I believe that while I might have misspoke earlier, that was the first game. It is now 0-1 in favor of Ikato. Chekhov taking the loss in their first game, but the second one, I believe, not sure what's happening. They are into a bit of a delay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
having
There's some
technical
problems
difficulties.
with the client and Riot's thing, so we're just waiting a little bit, which shouldn't take long, I think.
Well, yeah, Chekhov is going to need to restart his client. But anyways, TDS, what are you thinking about the dragons? The new dragon card.
Just a few of time, but
Yeah,
so we
time.
did spoke a little bit on this. I think dragons. I hope it comes back as a niche because I feel like it's not necessarily that they're weak. It's just that they needed a little bit more variety, maybe, or strength to go for for the body that people may find in it. And I think that this time they can fill a better niche space so that more people will pick it. Because let's be honest, I need more dragons. Like I miss the time where dragons was meta. I miss those times. I need
Hmm.
more of that.
Yeah, I mean there's a couple dragon cards that came out that look pretty busted. The landmark looks really good.
Yeah.
The brood father, definitely another big dragon card coming out. As we are waiting for news from Chekhov and Aikado. Um do Yeah, we're gonna go to a quick break while we try and figure
Yeah.
out these technical difficulties between Aikado and Chekhov, but stick right there and we'll be back.
Am I breaking through? You feel me too? I still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through? You feel me too? I still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through? You feel me too? I still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through? Am I breaking through? Am I breaking through? Am I breaking through?
right, we're coming back. We are still waiting to figure out what's going on with Aikado and Chekhov, but in the meantime, we're gonna go straight into the other matchup that's happening right now. It's gonna be Hanzo and Camillari in, I believe, their second game. TDS.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned second game. So I don't think we know who won the first one, but we are jumping into the second game between the two of them. And just quickly to check, we have from Camillari, Ilaoi, Lux, Pisafilios, and Yumi Pantheon, what the Ilaoi looks that we were able to highlight. And then from the side of Hanzo, we had Aphelios, Bard, Diego, and Jace Hammer Dealer. So quite a few interesting decks. We don't know which one was banned away, but we still are getting the action ready.
And we are pretty deep into the
Yeah.
second game. You know, turn 9 basically. 15 seconds left on the timer for Camillari. Granted, that doesn't mean it's the end of the game, but this is an interesting spot to be in. A 12-8 Viego, not the best, not the best thing to have to go against,
Yeah.
but still potentially ways out of here. We have, I believe, Aphelios in hand, leveled up, ready to go, as well as some spells and some Fey cards. The problem is that Hanzo has the attack token right now, so it's gonna be a big attack.
It's actually such a dangerous moment for Camillari.
And it's honestly even of a bigger problem than that is that the Viego is leveled up. This means the Viego is going to be, you know, stealing units every turn, and Camillari has to look out for basically like the Absolver Redeemer combo from Cam and Hanzo. That's basically just gonna guarantee the win whenever Cam and Hanzo finds that.
Yeah, like there's just so much threatening potential, even if it's not in this turn, but in the deck just by itself because of the fact that the Viego is already so strong. So, like Camillari is kind of playing in a really thin area where one mistake can just mean completely failing. So he has to be really careful about how he plays this out.
Yeah, and Camillari is actually in such a difficult spot because Hanzo doesn't have to do anything to risk the Viego. All Hanzo has to do is keep the Viego alive, and it means that Camillari can't play his Aphelios because Hanzo will just let the Aphelios do whatever, end the round, and kill the Aphelios, and then you're back to square one with no Aphelios on the board.
Yeah, which is the complete horrible scenario that you don't want to go at all into. So it's really a harsh situation for Camillari, but I feel like if he can find some way to just deny complete the Viego, it's going to be fine.
Now, the problem is going to be finding that card in your deck for Camillari. You know, looking through the deck list for this wait. This is Phizaphelios, yeah.
Yeah.
This Phizaphelios deck is, you know, what do you have to handle the Viego? You don't have mini morph, you don't have, you know, really any spell damage. You just have a single wall up and then some pokey sticks, and that's not really enough to clear this Viego, especially now that there are two of them on the board. So this is gonna be game for Cameron Hanzo, I believe.
I think there's barely anything that the side of Camillari can do.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like the point, or not the point, but like it's what happens when you reach the leveled up version of Viego, in that every round you're just taking something off the board. Really good for clearing, because you have huge beefy units, and anything that's not cleared by your big attack is cleared by Viego the next round start.
Yeah, it's just simply such a harsh situation, although there is quite a good way to stop dying, at least from Camillari. But yeah, there's so much that Hanzo has still in hand to play around, so it's still dangerous.
One health is definitely not the best place to be, though, and we do see a Viego cleared off the board, thankfully, luckily, but where do you go? Like, there's still a 13-12 Viego on the board. You know, the
Should you
face
take
folk,
the risk at all for the Aphelios?
there's no reason to risk the Aphelios. There's nothing given that can clear the Aphelios. Even with the Fae folk and you know, a something, like the double attack or this, like
Yeah.
the Aphelios is just gonna steal it next turn. Like what? You're healing up 8 damage, but then the Aphelios steals this, or vengeances it even, and you're still in the same spot. It's just a the Viego deck is set up. There's nothing else really.
Yeah. Like, unless there was a clear way to just destroy everything, doesn't feel like there's.
Ruination? Nah. But you're
It's
not
kind
running
of the
Shadow
thing.
Isle.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is just gonna be, you know, Hanzo making sure he doesn't run out of cards, looking for, you know, the nothing. Doesn't need to find anything. He just needs to attack.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's gonna be it.
Yeah,
I
Camilleri
don't know
tried to
where the
look for chances, but there was none, sadly, at the end.
What a unfortunate game to come in on as we were, you know, looking for
I would say
something to
unfortunate
cover.
moment to come in,
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
think the
yeah.
game could have been more fun. The moment that we came in, it was harsh, to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely a forlorn hope there at that point. But we do have word that Chekhov and Aikalo are back into, or Chekhov at least is back
Good
into the
news.
game client. I think we're gonna keep covering the Camillari versus Hanzo unless the Camillari versus Hanzo series is over. So yeah, we're gonna go into game 3 for Camillari versus
Yeah.
Hanzo.
Okay. Which in case we don't know yet which decks were were the ones banned away. So potentially we may see once again the Piece of Helios still up
Mhm.
for Camillari, or we may end up seeing either of the Yumi Pantheon or now Lux, or no, sorry, not from them, but the Piece of Helios from Camillari and from Hanzo. There's still chance to see the Jason Merdinger or the Aphelios Bard, which I hope we get to see Aphelios Bard, just because I think that could be fun.
No, I would really like to see the fellow Spart from from anyone, but it will be interesting. I think the Jace Heimerdinger was what was banned, but Aphelios Bard definitely gonna be interesting if that's the ending, or the one we end up with, as we are waiting to get into the last match for Hanzo versus Camillari, whenever that.
Yeah. Important to know, just to keep in mind, that Frozen Monks lost the first one because Dragon won. So as the series score right now, it's 1-0 for Howdy Gamers, and Frozen Monks needs to still get the victories on their side for the set. It's still 1-0 because we haven't yet finished the other two.
Yeah. Still waiting for the match to start. If there even is a match between Hanzo and Camillari, and it was not a 2-0 for Hanzo.
Oh, are we going back to? Okay, so we're going to finish Czechoslovakia from what it seems.
A bit of jumping around here.
Yeah, but at least we have more information there.
hmm
So
as we wait.
yeah, it's just waiting a little bit for it to happen. But this time
So
around, just to refresh, Akado did one on the Yumi Pantheon, right? It
yes.
was Yumi Pantheon Victor against
Yeah.
Victor.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
Okay, perfect. So
Correct.
we did see the win, and we're jumping into game already. It seems to be Ilaoi looks from Aikado, I think. Yeah, I think it's
Yes,
going to be
Alawi
Ilaoi
Lux
looks.
and the Shellfolk deck again from Chekhov, who has been complaining about it so much in the streamed match comment, or the streamed match channel.
On our personal channel, yeah.
Yeah, but no, this is an interesting start. The Alawi coming out turn 4 already. The Ezreal curiously not played. Definitely looking out for that that tentacle slam from Aikado. Just such a crazy card. It's a 4 damage strike spell, which wild stuff here in Legends of Runeterra, but excuse me. Definitely an interesting place to start off with. The Alawi already down 4 health, and there's a lot of spell damage to be had from Chekhov. And Chekhov has the Shell Folk in hand ready to go down. The only problem is that it has to stay alive through 2 tentacle slams.
Yeah, quite a lot of damage to be threatened with. So it needs to be careful on both sides of the field. I do think that Chekhov has a really nice just overall hand to play around with, like a lot of just overall power to use.
No, for sure, and it's such an interesting. Ooh, 2 Shell Folk. That could be big, could be huge. Now, what I think Chekhov can go for here is trying to use the Shell Folk to not steal, but to copy the spawn cards in Ikado's hand. So like the Tentacle Slam, the Voice of the Sea, the Watchful Idol, taking those cards would be hugely beneficial for Chekhov just because of the amount of board presence they can provide.
Yeah, that is a way to try and just strengthen yourself in a way that maybe some other times you don't get. Trying to just immediately clear some of the power just outright.
Yeah, and definitely the smart choice. You only have 1 blocker for Chekhov. You do have the Otterpusses, but they aren't going to provide you the most health to block with. And now, especially with the Station Archivist being vulnerable, it will be hard to block anything with that. But you have the 3 attackers, excuse me. The Sea of the Voice is going to... Why would the Sea of the Voice challenge that? Why would the Hired Gun not just challenge the Station Archivist?
Time to make some coin.
Curious.
Interesting to see the decision at the end to take away.
Now the Tentacle doesn't spawn attack, but this is curious. I guess Aikado doesn't want the Voice of the Sea to die, which makes a lot of sense, but you still can challenge the Station Archivist with the Hired Gun and save your Alawi.
But the thing is, I feel like, yeah, if you're willing to risk the Alawi like that, it kind of surprises me to a really high degree, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and I think good opportunity to play the Ezreal here. Distract from the Shell Folk that are going to be coming out. Distract the Tentacle Slams that will undoubtedly be seen here in just a second once Aikado plays his other Alawi. As we see potentially the Concerted Strike come here. Or what is
The thing is still Aikado has so much just power with the Lao is still in hand, and the fact that the tentacles are still stacking, so it just can be quite dangerous for Chekhov in a lot of ways. Like even if there's not a lot of threat yet, the threat will come out and will be really, really strong.
Yeah, and then Chekhov going for the Mystic Shot on the Voice of the Sea. Definitely the smart play here. Take away the Overwhelm from the Tentacle because 1 Overwhelm unit is more than enough. Now, it's going to be unfortunate because the Idol is going to be able to spawn 2 more times before it clears off the board. But without Overwhelm on the Tentacles, you're losing out on a lot of damage on this Alawi deck.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to mention with the Alawi that I think I failed to talk about it though is that even though I think that the Tentacles and the Alawi interaction is always going to be really interesting and the damage and the power is going to come through, if you ever manage to find a way to kill the Tentacle, like that's just such a boon or such a huge attack towards the Alawi indirectly because the Tentacles is quite a bit of how you want to play with the Alawi as well. So trying to always take the Tentacles away can be a really nice measure against it in my opinion.
And I like the play here from Aikado, clearing out the Watchful Idol. Definitely the smart play. You're losing the Ezreal anyways, but using the Ezreal in the first place to bait out this Tentacle Slam. You know, you've
Yeah.
seen one, now you're going to see the second. The odds that there's a third is very low, considering there's only 3 cards left in Ikado's hand. And now you can play both of these Shell Folk relatively safely. You know, it's never 100%. You know, the odds are low that there's a third Tentacle Slam, but never a 0, as we all like to talk about. But still, a good place to start. The only downside is that you've now lost out on a lot of these tentacle spawn cards for checkout. So you've lost the opportunity to steal these board generation units, I guess, to say.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity, and then apart from that, like you kind of allowed for the setup from Aikado to be even stronger than it could have been.
Yeah, but going for this block is definitely the best play, I think. You know, like taking away the Sea of the Voice 2 turns ago, denying the Overwhelm for the Tentacle is saving saving Chekhov 8 damage here. You know, that there's 7 damage, because if the Tentacle had Overwhelm, this would have been a very, very difficult thing to defend against, as we see the Alawi level up coming through. This just Alawi's gonna be a big unit. Alawi's gonna be huge. Not the best place to be.
Yeah, I feel like
But
we're
now
just waiting on it a little bit.
Now that the Shell Folk is out, we're going to see the Concerted Strike immediately come out to answer as we go for the Predict time trick.
Yeah, I think the apparent
Look
choice.
at how much value that Chekhov's already gotten out of this.
Yeah.
They've played 4 cards, I think, or 3 cards to create 4 units or something. They could have used both trinket trades. They could have gotten another unit out of this for another spell.
Yeah, maybe the moment is like it's a play, but maybe the play is out of time on when it could have been.
Maybe.
But there's still a chance. Like you're still the next is still up, so there's still a chance. But maybe it was a little bit delayed.
Yeah, now Telstones is a really interesting card. Basically the 3 sisters for every region, but ranking it, making it 3 cost, makes it basically worthless. No one wants a 6 cost barrier. No one wants a 9 cost for Demacia.
Yeah.
And the Answered Prayer also really, really good. Still, though, at 4 cost, having an 8/5 tentacle already on the board, that card is going to be worthwhile no matter what.
And we'll do so much in almost any way. So, like the only thing is that you can keep stacking a little bit on the board and maybe just prank everything so that it's going to be harsh on you. But even then, like as long as Aikado gets an attack, it's going to be valuable.
Yeah, and now you see the Telstones come out. 100%. Oh, I was gonna say 100% for Demacia, but the Detain also makes sense. This is a difficult one.
It's not necessarily a situation where I can see Chekhov not finding something to turn around, in a sense. But at the same time, I think that Aikado is just in a better spot as of now.
Yeah, and Chekhov has created basically 2, 4, 6, 8 spell damage, potentially 12 spell damage worth of spells in his hand just before the Shellfolk could be detained. So definitely looking to go for the kill here. 10 mana is exactly how much mana he needs to use all those cards, but the barrier is going to put a pretty big damper on trying to kill that Alawi.
Can the Victor stop? Can the Victor make this turn completely useless for, or not completely, but useless for Aikado? Or not that effective for Aikado? I think that's probably the way to say it.
I don't think so. Because I think, you know, the Alawi is going to gain at least 8 power and 5 health from this tentacle that's still on the board. The Sea of Voices is still in hand. Unless this clears the Alawi, I don't think it's enough. I mean, this does kill Alawi, but the Sea of Voices, the voice of the sea comes out. The Sea's voice, excuse me.
Yeah.
comes out, and I mean that.
You expended everything, and there's still there something to just destroy you.
Yeah, it's like you're using all this mana to kill the Alawi, but then you have to lose the victor in defending against the excuse me,
But
the
it's going to be committed.
tentacle. Yeah, I mean this makes the most sense just because the victor's gotten his value out. You're gonna have to use it to defend against the C's voice. But the problem is it enough? Because the C's voice and the what's it called is still in hand for Aikado, and Chekhov is out of mana, so we're gonna see the answered prayer come out. It's going to fully heal the tentacle, or no, it does not heal. It just spawns 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's gonna be 11 damage or no, 10 damage, excuse me, from
Plus a C.
the whatever the tentacle, and the C's voice comes out, granting it overwhelm. Like, yeah, you live because you block with Victor. It's your only option is to block with Victor. I guess.
It doesn't add up.
Or you sacrifice the shell folk since you're out of pick cards. I guess, yeah. I guess this is the best option.
Yeah. I think that's
Just
it.
feels bad. Just feels bad. One help. Just feels bad.
But it does mean that for the next attack, maybe you can get an extra on the victor, something, an extra boom. Maybe you can pull off attack to get the win because it's 14 damage and you do have some value in the hand.
Yeah. So okay. Oh, Trinket Trade giving you're giving Chekhov a huge card there. So the 2/1, the +2/1 card, along with the Sumpwork map, can make the victor elusive, which means it's gonna be huge. Gonna be a big attack from Chekhov. So 11 power elusive, no answer from Aikado, and they still have the +2/+1. This is it. Use it, Chekhov. Don't hesitate. Use it. Now, Mystic Shot. End him.
Not even needed. 14, it's enough. That's it.
Use the Mystic Shot for the BM.
We do need to say that we do not condone BM on this stream, just in case.
Speak for yourself.
It's an after effect.
But no, a
Okay,
very,
good.
very well played game from Chekhov. You know, handling the tentacles really, really well. You know, playing out the everything. I mean, that was just so heads up, thinking ahead. The pranking intel is so valuable. The most value, even more than like screwing over your opponent's cards. Knowing what's in their hand is just so good because you make such a more well-educated decision on what you're going to play. And Chekhov made such good decisions. They found out exactly what they needed to come out with the win. Like that I don't even know what to say. Like that was so stressful just watching, even up to the very end. So very well played from Chekhov.
Yeah, I think that Chekhov made the best decisions that he could with what I was giving to him, and I think that I did say that maybe the timing for using some of his advantages was a little bit too late, maybe, but at the end it ended up being the right time, and he managed it in the correct manner. So complete great to him. I think playing quite nicely. We're still waiting on the last potential game, it seems, or was it the last one? Right. Thinks maybe. Or we're yet to get a concrete answer, so I guess we'll wait for a sec.
Yeah, I think they're still figuring out something.
Okay.
I think we're gonna cut to a break then. Yeah, we're gonna We're
Okay.
gonna cut to a quick break while we figure out what's going on with the final series with Frozen Monks versus Howdy Gaming. So stick right there. We'll be right back. All right, everyone. I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news, well, I don't know. TDS, think of good news. I'll give them the bad news. The bad news is that we're going to be calling the stream here tonight. We've had a couple of technical difficulties. We're not going to be able to get back into the Chekhov versus Aikado game in time, so we will not be continuing the coverage of their series. We will let you know what happens on Twitter, what happened or with their matches, but that will be it for the stream here on Aegis Esports for the Legends of Runeterra League. My name is Domcast. I've been joined by TDS. TDS, did you think of good news to tell them?
Yeah, the good news is that next week we will be back, so you can come back and watch us
There
after
you
learning
go.
more about the patch.
The good news is that it's not over. Well, the league's not over. We're done for
Yeah.
tonight. We'll be back later. We'll be back next week with some more action. Hopefully, the meta will be a little bit more figured out. I'm excited to see what people will come out with these new cards. You know, I'm really looking forward to the Annie Jin cards. You know, I think Jin has been a little bit slow on the pickup just because of how different his playstyle is. Maybe I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we've
It's
seen a
going to
lot of
take time, I
Alawi.
think.
We've
It's
seen
going
a
to
lot of
take time
Alawi.
again.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, like you said, TS. But no, I think I've seen enough Alawi. It makes sense though because she has a pretty straightforward playstyle. You know, just make a huge unit and give it overwhelm.
Yeah.
But you know, any final words, TS?
Come back next week. Follow me on Twitter. Thank you for watching.
Well, there you have it. Like I mentioned, I am Domcast. I've been joined by TDS. That will be our coverage for tonight on the Aegis Esports stream for the Legends of Runeterra League. See y'all next time.